Excellent. Okay. I'm sorry, did you already send out a link to the thing? I know I've got it somewhere, but if you have it
Oh, to the
handy.
meeting notes. Yeah.
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 Thanks.
While you're doing that, we could check with everybody about the meeting next month. If that sounds good. Does anybody want to weigh in on maybe moving it up a week so it's not on December 22nd? I don't know how many people are going to start taking off, but
I would suggest that we move it up. I don't plan on being around on the 22nd.
okay, great.
Good point. Good point, Misty.
Thanks. Once in a while.
I see a lot of thumbs up.
Okay, great. So we'll get on that and get an update sent to everybody.
Cool. So, is there anything anyone wanted to, if I'm remembering right, maybe we had that discussion last week around statistics, which I thought was really good. Um, I think I mentioned to the IMAC group that we might have some kind of blurb that came out of that. I want to say that we had maybe some, I don't know if it was a recommendation, but summary of the notes, or should I just grab what was in our notes document?
In terms of the statistics discussion,
Mhm.
yeah. We can share the notes. I know I was going to put them into a document and I didn't, so I'm the weak link.
Oh, no, that's fine.
The
Okay.
the weakest link of
Okay,
this
I
meeting.
see. I see it on there now. I was looking at another one. Okay. Yeah, but when we have something like that, then we can share it with iMac. Um, and now I'm the weakest link because I'm trying to navigate my drive here.
Nobody will ever live down that reality TV show.
Well, it looks like you have it up.
Yeah, so here's our our minutes from the last meeting. I think a lot of it was around this question of capturing creation versus edit of entities.
This is Paula. Before we get too deep in the meeting, there's something I just wanted to make sure that Kate and I were talking this morning. And this is one of the fields, which is activity start date. And we would love to get some clarification on what activity that is or how we might indicate what activity that is. So I'm just throwing that out there because that's probably more in the weeds, but it was on my mind. So
I think those are the exact weeds that we're getting into
perfect.
shortly.
Why don't we move over there? Anne, do you have that document you sent everybody
Yes.
handy? Why don't you go ahead and share that?
Let me. Ah, hold on. I gotta find my window. Hold on. Sorry.
If you can't, I pulled it up. The person and organization entity properties.
Oh,
great.
I was also getting the Meridian kind of started. But yeah, feel free to add. I think this. Yes. Okay.
And Rowena asked a great question, which might be something this group wants to do a survey on if we can.
Yeah, or we can do a shout out and people can enter in the, um, what is it? Enter in the chat too.
Oh yeah, I mean, certainly if people in this group are doing any projects, please um speak up. Let us know. We'd love to hear about it.
But yeah, we could check with the greater group too.
Yeah.
Oh, oops, not that. Okay, sorry everybody. I'm still I'm
Computers.
collaborating with my Mac on
Okay. I'll tell you what, let me
privacy settings here, which
I can
I'm
share.
I'm only one password away.
Oh God.
Oh, okay, I gotta quit and
We wish you
reopen.
luck.
Be right back. Be right back.
Oh no.
Oh
Oh,
no.
geez.
Sorry.
Um, so these are the fields. I wish I had a bigger screen right now. So I'm like, and we were asking about activity or active. This one, active start date.
Okay,
Is
I'm
that what
back.
you're
This is
talking about,
Kate.
Paula?
Can you
Yes,
hear me?
sorry, I
Yeah.
was muted.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were the sorry, I'm sorry, Paula, go ahead. Sorry.
No, that's it. I just said, yes, that's correct.
Oh yeah, the active start date. I guess we were wondering about like how to clarify if there's a way to clarify, should there be a way to clarify a date of like the date on what those periods of creative or intellectual activity began and ended, and like but how to clarify what those activities are and how deep in the weeds, like I guess um
Wouldn't
because
it
yeah.
wouldn't it be somewhat based upon though? So if you're creating a new entity name for a person, you would know something about, you would have some sort of resource typically or some reason to create that record, that data. So wouldn't you have some insight into what I would think the activity would be whatever activity it is that you're looking at to sort of generate the need for the name
Well,
is what I would think of.
Can
we
I?
know what activity we're talking about. We're asking
Oh,
how do we
okay.
express that
Oh, okay.
in the
Okay.
metadata?
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, or if we should, or yeah, I guess just yeah, it was because we're coming across the activities we're documenting are like times publishing while at our
Oh, okay.
institution. Yeah, so
Okay.
like we're
Okay.
like, should that be documented, and if so, how? So this seemed like a good time to bring it up.
I have a feeling that once Anne gets through signing in 1,000 times, she's going to show us what that looks like.
Mm.
Um, and I see a hand up.
Yeah, real quick, with regard to this, we use this quite frequently for faculty name authority records
Mm,
where the duration in a particular institution or with an associated group,
hmm
say for a faculty member with a start and stop date at, well, just say, William and Mary, a particular institution, and then coming on to UCLA. So. I guess my reaction was at first I just assumed that that was what it was going to be for. So
right.
I'd like to see other uses illustrated as well.
So,
I'm gonna. Can I
sorry.
hop in here real quick, or go ahead, Misty?
I was just going to say, I created one last week and I used it for graduation date since that's
Mm,
what was available. But I couldn't put in specific dates related to the activity because they wanted a start and end date. So that was a little confusing.
Hmm.
But that's what
Um,
I would probably use it for, something like that.
hmm
so I just want to clarify. So this is directly kind of exported from our
hmm
ontology, and so I also put in here the section that
hmm
it lives in.
hmm
Um, and it can be hard because in the context, um, to me, active start date and end date, because they live in this significant dates section,
Hmm.
it this really has to do with like this person's
Hmm.
active start and end date. So I think closer to, I'm sorry if that was Paul talking about, um, I don't know, this could be a painter or something,
Hmm.
sort of the window in which they were active. Um, that's what's meant by this active start date. And so when it comes in here and it's a little bit, I mean, uh, if this part is confusing, we can kind of figure out maybe there's like a scope note or something that we could add. But then I think separately, um, what some folks, I think Misty, what you were talking about is, were you talking about like an affiliation with a given
Right. But since
institution?
I couldn't put
I,
them there, I just added the dates in the other location, the active date maybe, or the end date, because I
What?
didn't know where else to add them.
So if I said, like, let's say University of Houston, I think I can add a start date. Let's find out because it should work to let me say 2016 is a start date, and it should just let you do it. Was that
I
not
had
what?
an end date because I knew when they graduated.
Oh, so you just had an
Yeah.
Yeah.
end date. Oh,
Yeah.
oh, okay.
And it
Okay.
wasn't letting me do that.
Oh, oh, that's a great suggestion. Okay. That's something that that's like a user interface thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So when that comes to the rule, not the rule, but that's, this is sort of the rubber meeting the road of the implementation stuff. So
Yeah.
I think that's a perfect suggestion.
Okay.
Um,
Thanks.
There isn't like an ability in the system, maybe you can try it right now,
uh-huh,
and
uh-huh.
to have the start date be 9999 or just 0000, like a placeholder type thing. Does that work or does it
Um,
give you an error?
one could do that, but I think the more like that would introduce then like that value into
No,
the
different
data
variable, right,
set,
right.
and then it would actually show up like once you look at the data. So
Hmm.
I think what we just have to do on an application end. So again, like just for a little bit more context, these these properties like exist in the ontology that has the set of like classes and subclasses and then properties. And then it's applied through the Meridian application. And so there are some things, like there are some properties that are like legal things to say, but we have, for example, decided to limit them in terms of the UI because it doesn't make sense in this context. For example, for a person, um, you can, and again, this could be useful, but for a person right now, we limited the ability to say related thing because a thing could be anything in the ontology. So you could say Ann Washington is related to thing Atlanta, Georgia. We do have some more specific properties, though. That's like related place or place of birth or residence or something like that. And so
Mhm.
what we did was opt, even though the ontology describes that or outlines that, defines it as part of that class,
Mhm.
from an application standpoint, we did some limitations to try to work towards a certain data fidelity. So in that
Makes sense.
way, we made the decision at the time to include like a full range, but this can exist as an end date without it. So I'm like 99% sure. So that is a fairly straightforward change on our end of the application's like use of the ontology.
Does that make sense to
Sorry
everybody?
for the very
Any other
Yeah.
questions?
longest winded response, but that is
No, that makes sense.
okay.
Yeah, a lot of sense. And then the active dates are more for somebody who's actively in the field
Yeah.
of whatever they're doing. That makes sense. Yeah, that's helpful.
Yeah, right now we don't have, so like if we don't have that descriptor, I can't think of the word that I'm thinking of. But anyway, field of activity is living at the level of description of like I'm describing the person's active dates. When it comes to the property that you would see in the data for this, let's just look at it real quick. I think it's going to show start date and end date instead of using the actual oh, duh, what am I doing? Oh, well, that worked too.
So, no, this makes sense that the overall active date end or start should be related to the person as a whole. This is mostly applicable to people, like in the ancient world who were not entirely sure what their birth and death date is. You see this a lot with like the old Greeks and Romans, right? Um, I think is what you're saying. And then if you want to have active dates that are related to a specific activity, person, or place, you want to put the dates within that relationship.
Yep,
Okay.
yep. Oh, I'm
So,
going to the wrong thing.
sorry.
I know what
So
I'm doing
Kate, I think to answer your question, instead of using that active date, you could put that in reference to like the university they're with or whatever, and leave it open-ended like Anne was showing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah,
Thanks. Yeah,
that makes good sense. Thank you.
thanks.
Yeah, let me just find, oh, it's not going to say University of Houston though, isn't it? Employed.
Paul,
Okay,
you had a question?
so here's how
I
this,
do.
oh,
I do.
sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Anna, for interrupting, but I may have missed this before. But what would the formatting be like for a specific date, month, year, month, day, year? How are they formatting that?
That is, you can change this like specificity
Ah, okay, got it,
here.
got it. Yeah.
Yep, and right now, you'll see it's localized. So in the US, and this is something that, we've gotten feedback about using EDTF format, but
So,
like you could have 01, I know we don't love this, 20, 20, 25. And if your browser is localized to Australia, UK, Germany, this will show up the another way where it says 2025 or 20-1 slash dash, or actually, I think they use periods. But anyway, this is how you change that level of specificity. So it could go from having a year specificity because like, they started sometime in 2021, but I know for sure they graduated, May 17th, 2025 or whatever. I'm sorry, is that the answer to your question?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Okay. And then on the back end of things, here's what this looks like. So here was the, whoops, employed by relationship. This has a very kind of specific relationship. Oh, here we go. So then we see the end date. This is I think it's like a W3C time date
Mhm.
format, but this is where
right.
you can see kind of all these like real specific details. Like it's a year specificity, which is 2021, but then this turns out to be like the timestamp, but that's why it shows 2021. And then so we can see that this is the end date and then the start date. So that's where active date is a totally different type of date. These start and end dates, those can kind of be plopped into different properties, kind of like exactly what Jill said.
And then this is probably also helpful for people who have multiple careers. If you're like, this person was an artist and the activity dates were roughly blah, this to this.
Yep.
Maybe that person was a professor roughly from this date to this date. That way it lives in the hierarchy instead of.
Yeah, and I like Robin your suggestion of the spreadsheet can be whatever we want it to be,
Hmm.
and if we want to include an example or two, we
Yeah.
can do that. I mean, that could even be something that sort of makes its way, back to any other kind of help pages or something like that.
Yeah.
Um,
I think especially because this is sort of a flat view of the data and not seeing all the, I mean, even though you've got requirement and things like that, but not really having that hierarchy that you have from the ontology. It's just a little bit more of a flat view that having a example would kind of be for someone looking through it. Just even me kind of going through it, I can be like, oh, there's an example. Okay, that's not applicable to what I was kind of thinking. So it'll kind of help steer me back into the ontology a little bit too, I think. So,
This comes up a lot, Robin, when people are setting up ontologies and
yeah.
systems, because the systems administrators want things in formats like this because that's a spreadsheet you can upload directly into
Oh, sure.
the
Yeah.
system create this
Yeah.
forms. But then, the people who are trying to do it are like trying to visualize it.
Oh,
And
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
it's
Yeah. I have to use a lot of spreadsheets like this,
yeah.
but I'm always thinking about like, like this, yeah, this works for the system, but it doesn't always
Mhm.
work for the people who have to kind of
Yeah.
figure what they have to reassemble
Yeah. No, 100%. I run into this every
it.
time we do a migration project.
and
Um,
I want to see, mm, I don't know if any of these. I want to mention, okay, one, when you go to this link, it's going to give you JSON,
Mhm.
which fine. But if you are on the OCLC help ontology,
Mhm.
this ontology guidelines and standards
Mhm.
page puts it into a little bit more context. I
Yeah.
wouldn't say that it's like the most helpful because I'm not seeing, well, I guess this has some
This is what I make my
stuff here.
students look at.
Yeah. So I just wanted to mention that like we're seeing the description here, but there
Yeah.
I want to say for some of these, oh, we added scope notes.
Hmm.
So I did not transfer these all over to the spreadsheet. Um, I would say a lot of the scope notes that we did put in here had to do with like equity, inclusion,
Hmm.
and things like that, just as we defined certain things we wanted to put in some context that we're using this term
Hmm.
as, and it doesn't necessarily have to be like a these types of things. So, um, just FYI, some of these scope notes do exist, and then for
Hmm.
others, we could probably use some examples and things like that.
Hmm.
So, just to round out more of the context of what you're seeing here and what additional resources there might be.
Hmm.
And our vocabulary manager is so thrilled that we're looking at this. Like, I can't tell
Yay.
you how excited. He's like,
how funny.
he's like, oh, when they, I'm really interested to know what they think, what feedback, what needs they have, and that kind of stuff. So,
Yeah.
um, I was thinking at some point if we want to pull him, Michael Phillips,
Hmm.
into a conversation, if we have a set of questions or something we'd like him to present on, he's truly more than happy.
Are there specific things that he's curious about?
I think he's curious about what, we've been sharing what the folks
Hmm.
working with the system are working on. And then an example like we just had of the dates.
Hmm.
I think he'd be curious, like, oh, folks, for this particular property, we don't have a start date or whatever. Now, some of that is, again, the implementation on the UI.
Hmm.
But those are the types of things he's interested in. Or if we find something and it's like, I'm not sure that this actually describes what this is, or this definition is
Hmm.
confusing, like this could really use a scope note. I think all of that type of feedback is helpful.
And um, no, this is view only. Could
Mhm.
we maybe
Oh,
if you give commenter
Mhm.
permission to everybody in this group, then people can start adding comments maybe to the spreadsheet?
okay, so everybody was seeing this as view only?
Yeah.
Okay, because I'm not logged in to Google in this browser. So I was hoping that
Let
it
me
I put it
see.
in
Yeah.
the folder, the drive,
Oh, you did. Okay. Let
but
me see if I.
Yeah, it's saying view only for me.
Yeah, me too.
oh, that's so
Although,
sad. Okay.
uh, yeah, and I just looked to see if I was in this Google account versus my five others. Yeah, it's
Oh,
view only
I'm
for
special.
this
I
one.
have permissions to add comments.
Oh,
Just me.
that's a good point.
I thought, let me look here. Let's see. Oh, okay. Who knows? Okay, so should I just set it as anyone with a link as an editor for right now?
Or
Um,
comment.
yeah, as a what's it?
Because we can add everyone. I don't know if I have everyone's Gmail though. So it's like,
Yeah.
I'm just going to add it as editor right now. So I don't know,
Yeah.
refresh the page and see what happens.
Yeah, and then everybody
Yeah, I
can go
see
in
it.
and start
Yeah, I
making
don't want to
comments.
introduce the barrier of the Google
Oh, yeah.
permission structure if we can help it. But if if we start to get wildly inappropriate comments from this being on a corner of the internet, but that would be the most interesting thing to happen to an ontology.
At least with Google, you can roll back to the original version,
Yeah,
so there would be that. But
yeah.
yeah, I would find it very hard to imagine, but who knows? The web is a wild place these days.
Yes. So we have the person, and I just want to mention that organization is on a separate tab, just because sometimes these tabs are like invisible to my eyes until I know they
Oh,
exist. So
yeah.
organization is at the bottom, but I figured we'll work through one and then the other.
And is there a way that if we add comments, is there a way that you would find it easiest for you? I mean, I can see a lot of chaos if everyone's sort of adding comments in their
Yeah.
own style. So I don't know if you want to define
Like a different
something.
color or something, maybe.
Yeah, I
Or
think up to the group. This is the group document. So however folks want to do this, um, I'm okay with a little bit of chaos in a spreadsheet. It eventually gets distilled down into something less chaotic. Um, but if people have done collaborative spreadsheets before, cool. Or we could copy this into a doc. I feel like that could be a little wild. I think my brain works better with horizontal chaos of just like never-ending fields. So I don't know what people's preference is to start like adding things in.
Maybe either like a notes field, um, or a notes tab to go along with it so people could add comments and not replace anything in it, or maybe just use a different color if possible to highlight what you're doing, something like that, maybe. I don't know if that's helpful.
Yeah, I guess my initial thing is somebody would say like, this is confusing. I don't get why this is in this section. And this other person would be like, I use this all the time. And another person might be like, I, you know, this is fine
Well, like a
as
good,
is.
sorry, like a good example is the alias, and then you know how you're able to choose the like doctor or
Oh,
junior
this,
or something. Yeah. So is it better to add like an alias, or is that what alias is for? Um, or just it was just an example.
yeah. And then we, if people are interested, you could do that. And then like MK. So I don't know what folks the mechanics of a collab people feel most comfortable with?
I think it's good. Most of the groups I've done that are working on ontology is like we'll start with a document like this,
Yeah.
and then people start adding comments because they can do it relative to a specific cell
Oh,
and then
okay.
have conversations. But then my experience is that
Uh,
usually by, a few months into this, the
Mhm.
conversations get too long. And then we have to move it to another document that's more easy to read.
Mhm.
But I think starting this way usually works pretty well
Right.
because it gets people into the conversation mode. If you just do, every time you add a comment, and then once someone's added one comment,
it's like a
it allows you
thread.
to reply and it becomes like a thread. Yeah. But
That
I,
seems good to me.
Mhm.
So kind of like with Misty's question, it's like, should I include all of the honorifics
Yeah.
in the alias? Something like
Mhm.
that, and then you'd comment, and then there would be a thread.
Yeah, that usually works pretty well. And then, down the line, you end up pulling it
Yeah.
out and making it and then if everybody's okay with that, Robin
Mhm.
is asking about corporations.
Yeah, just and I know that in the larger ontology there's reference to agents and sort of collective agent and things like that. But I'm just wondering, like, I know there's organization as a separate tab here. Um, I guess for the and maybe it doesn't need anything different, but I was just kind of wondering, um, like is everything on this well, but you have I guess I'm just kind of I am trying to take that ontology hierarchy and trying to kind of figure out where it goes here. So I guess that's more my question. Sorry. It's not fully formed.
Oh, that's
But just
okay.
thinking about groups of people and like the things that are related to groups of people, families, what we and um for library stuff sometimes you hear groups of people, especially organization called corporate bodies, just a group of people working together. Like how is that sort of envisioned in that document, I guess is my question. Because I know it's there. It's more like how is it meant to kind of be represented in terms of the entities like on the spreadsheet? Because organizations pulled out, but then what about sort of those other groups of people? I guess that's my question.
Yeah, so right now we have um agent that is
Hmm.
super general.
Right.
That's like the top
Yeah.
class. And then the subclasses are person,
Hmm.
family, and
Hmm.
organization.
Hmm.
And an organization is corporation, corporate body. I think about this as like a band could be an
Hmm.
organization. So that's what it's closest to a band, a
Hmm.
school, a library. Families have come up for
Yeah.
me and my work a
Yeah.
lot with archives.
Oh yeah. It's
Um,
all the time. It feels like. Yeah.
yeah, and then so those are these um, subtypes.
Hmm.
They inherit some, both
Hmm.
inherit some properties from agent,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
that's represented in these lists.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
this represents all of those properties.
Hmm.
Um, and there was one more thing I was going to say about agent organization. Oh, and then the scope of
Hmm.
the EMCO early adopters is
Hmm.
person and organization, if I remember right. I don't know if family is. I was looking back at the EMCO document,
Hmm.
uh, the early adopters scope,
Hmm.
and if I'm remembering it, it's person and organization. If family is a thing, I can also add a tab for that here.
Okay.
But I
Yeah.
think it said person and corporate bodies in
Interesting.
the scope for right now. And so that's kind of why these are the two
Okay.
that I pulled out.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah, that's helpful to know.
Paul.
We may want to deal with this at another time, but I wanted to follow up with Robin's observations, only because I've been doing a lot of NACO work of late, where we have personal name changes and organizational name changes. And for personal name changes, I'm finding in NACO duplicate records for the same person,
Yeah.
and so I guess I'm curious about the mechanics here in WorldCat. How do you track that? But if we can't do it right now, we can save that discussion for another time.
Mhm.
Like how we would track the
That
dates
person's,
that a
yeah,
particular
say,
name was
yeah,
used.
yeah, a marriage, a person who's married changes their surname,
Oh,
person who gets divorced, organizations, a department, a faculty, a department that changes its name,
yeah.
a corporation. You know what I'm saying, Robin? It's that
Yep.
kind of thing. And
Yeah.
how can we track that? Because we're going to need to, because otherwise you're going to get a lot of
Yeah.
essentially
Yeah.
duplicate records in your database. So I'm just
So
curious about that.
one of the so I assume that OCLC is going to have some mechanical things to work out later in terms of duplicates
Mm-hmm.
and duplicate um, remediation when that does happen.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the beautiful things about linked data
Mm-hmm.
is that it handles this a lot better
Yeah.
than marked data, meaning you can add aliases or name
Mm-hmm.
changes, and then within that, you can add a reference to the dates. So this is one
Mm-hmm.
of the great things about how you can add dates.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if Anne can show that now. Yeah, in names. Yeah.
Yep, in the name section, you can add like, oh, it
Oh, there
doesn't
is no
exist
date?
anymore. It
Oh,
used to be. I'm thinking back to the old semi days. So this could be
Mm.
another, hold on, let me add this to we talked about end date
Mm-hmm.
for, with no start date.
yeah.
And then,
And then we want start and end date also available to use one or the other or both
Mm-hmm.
for names, added
Yeah,
yeah,
names.
definitely.
yeah, yeah, mm, that sounds good. Yes, let me shuttle that back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know that's in the JSON LD
Mm-hmm.
ontology or schema or whatever. So it should
Okay.
just be a UI change. It's a very pivotal piece in Wikidata.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was surprised because I'm thinking about 3 or 4 years ago when we were on kind of earlier instantiations of this, and it was right here. So I was like, oh,
I said that's
guess
what I
it's
was
not
thinking
here.
too. Yeah.
Okay.
It went away.
Yeah. No, but it should exist in
Sure.
the back end. It
Yeah.
just needs to be UI'd. UI'd?
Yeah.
Can I make that a verb?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
So
have now invented it.
this value would can house any number of alternate
Mhm.
names, but having a name with some specificity around like the dates
Mhm.
would be helpful. So
So if I add in aliases, will it check across the system and make those connections for me?
Yeah, yeah.
uh I'm sorry, if you were
So
to add
like if I'm adding aliases, if I'm just creating a record for a person,
uh-huh.
one of my faculty members or museum volunteers, whatever, if I'm creating that record and I'm kind of starting with what I have and I search and maybe don't see them or the name's different, and I'm not sure, so I'm just going to put in what I have. And then it would happen to find a match against it. Will it somehow link those records together? I mean, this is that mechanics piece of it, or would it throw it into a queue for potential review and merging of records and data together? Um, Sort of what's it is the question of like how do we keep this data from getting so separate with a lot of different records for individuals, especially as people move around and change their names and things like that. But Then I was just thinking with the aliases, would it actually search when I'm putting in names to see whether or not there's a match? When I put in an alias, so that might prompt me to go look at that alias versus just go ahead and create that record point.
Well, you
Yeah,
can also, I'm sorry, Anne.
no, please
Um,
take the conversation away from me. I
no,
talk too
um,
much.
all I was going to say is that for the description, you're allowed to add descriptors like what their field of activity is so that it
Right.
should show you and you should be able to figure out what record you prefer.
Mhm.
Um, if people are putting that in anyhow. But as
Yeah,
long as that's being added, that's a good way to differentiate which person
sure.
with the same name.
Sure, sure. But I was just thinking, like, I mean, my name's so common, and there's a bunch of Robin Fays that do all kinds of amazing things out there. And it was like, somebody started creating one for me, or even if they had my name and they started adding in some of my early publishing aliases or my art name, and then, would check against that and say, oh, is this the same person? Yes or no?
So
Um,
this is
yeah,
this
it
is
is.
a great question for OCLC as we move forward is what is going to be their method for checking duplication?
Mhm.
Yes.
Mhm.
Usually the company will establish certain match points.
Yeah.
So the
Yeah,
question is, what are those match points would be
exactly.
helpful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Hmm.
And I love to be able to, I mean, just for me, having done work with a lot of different local names and historic names, I don't mind if I get sort of things that are more of a fuzzy match or might not match completely, because then I can either use other filters as a match point to reduce my uh, what I'm looking at. But especially when you're doing historical names, I worked on some insurance fire map projects. And I mean, what they call buildings and corporations over, a span of 50 years, it depended on who drew the maps as to what they called them sometimes. So it was a lot of comparing information to figure out exactly which corporation I was looking at so that I could assign the maps to the right one. So, in that case, I got used to kind of having to look real broad, or not real broadly, but more broadly than I would normally look for, particular matches for names. So I'm okay with that sort of approach. I mean, I think it'd be nice if there was some additional lookup and being able to, curate sets of records to maybe look at to see if they're a match, especially for when you start looking at historic data and you start looking at really local or unique names, independent publishers and things like that, that may match broadly across the world and may or may not be publishing just in one discipline or one organization or one institution. So
Yeah.
anyway, just my thoughts on that.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm. Well
I mean,
said. Yeah.
I think as everybody knows, there will be instances that are impossible for the computer
Oh,
to figure out,
yes.
and that will be where we come in.
Yeah, that's us, right?
But
But we
but
can
yeah,
use help.
yeah. But knowing but if Anne could ask what match points
Yeah, that
they're
would be
thinking about,
great.
that'd be
That
great.
would be great. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll let you know what it currently is, which is not the future of this.
Yeah.
But as you are putting in, if you put a name here or in the alias, and it is of a given um, entity type,
Hmm.
um, metadata expert. I'm guessing that there's someone else, Robin Fay, but will, it will flag it
Yeah.
like
Yep.
based on that. So right now the match point is the string either in the
Hmm.
um, pref label or the
Right.
alias, the alt label.
Yeah.
And so what y'all are describing around, um, okay, after the fact,
Sure.
now that we've identified that this is the same, are
Hmm.
there some match points that we could use in an offline sort of batch
Mm.
deduplication
Sure.
slash what what do we have in terms of like merging? I will
Yeah.
say that in
Yeah.
terms of like a user facing merge, that's probably a, a ways, I don't know, we'll see kind of how we would roll something like that out, but there are ways to flag it so that
Mhm.
we can merge it on our end.
Yeah.
Um, and then like redirect the it properly.
Sure. I'm also thinking about, and I know this has been touched on already. And again, this is coming from working with sort of historical institutional data, is just how much committee names and departments change. And
Mhm.
you don't
Mhm.
want to lose that history of this was published under, the Department of Economics, and now it's got a different name. We don't want to lose where it was at that period in time, but we want to be able to link it to, link this person to all of the work that's kind of published under that department too. So just kind of thinking about like what's actually not only practical and useful, but how people interact with the resources we have, especially for historical resource,
Yeah.
historic resources.
This is another reason that link data is
Oh yeah,
a great solution for
Mhm.
us, because then
Mhm.
you don't
sure.
have, right now with the way subject headings are in
It's
LC, you end up
uh,
maybe having like 20 different entries for
ugh.
one agency.
Yeah,
In this case, you
yeah,
can, as Anne showed, put in
yeah.
one entity with multiple names
So
and
in
exact dates.
so in that case, if would we add those for like I'm thinking about when I worked on a federal agency and worked with a lot of historic data, and it's felt like every folder of records that were digitized under the same department with a different name.
Mhm.
So would I add that information as aliases? I would use whatever was I guess that would be my question, is how would I
So,
track all of those changes knowing it's the same agency and it's the same department, but they keep changing their name, and that would
yeah.
be captured on the linked data side of it, but then how would I capture that within the organizational or within the person's record? You would I see what I'm seeing, see what I'm saying?
So that's where both URIs and choice of is important, because
Right,
in that
right,
case you
right,
can put
Mhm.
in
right,
to the person
right.
whatever the
Department.
preferred
Yeah,
string
yeah,
name
yeah,
was.
yeah,
But then as long as the URI is there, it
right.
relates to this record and whatever when you're adding it as a.
So then on the search side, would we envision that if I search for, say, the Department of Computer and Information Science, that it's going to pull all the resources or all of the records that would be associated with that, regardless what
Okay, so
departmental name is attached to it?
search in here or search for user discovery?
Well, kind of
Because
both,
user,
but
yeah,
I would say start here.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
if I'm searching then and I wanted to see sort of, all of the work that my faculty has done in a particular department, would this facilitate that? And of course, that is a little bit of a user need, but then there could also be a data need as well as, maybe I need to look at those records in a different way or do some kind of work on them. Or
Um,
Mhm.
I'm just brainstorming here.
in terms of user search, that's going to be a much bigger conversation that involves
Sure.
multiple systems.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
So
yeah, yeah,
that's not
yeah.
scoped here.
Sure,
But
sure, sure.
for search within here, and correct me if I'm wrong, if you search by any of the aliases, you should get the item or the entity
Right.
that you're looking for. And then the question of if you have a entity of a person and they're
Mm-hmm.
potentially associated with
Mm-hmm.
5 or 6 different departments. And then
Mm-hmm.
each of those departments entities had name changes 10 or
Right.
20 times.
Mhm.
Uh, I think if you were to see that in this UI, that would get very
Mm-hmm.
overwhelming for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
the way
Yeah,
to
I
get
suppose.
the way to get that kind of data, however, is pullable if you have somebody who can use the API, because then you can pull
Oh,
all the entities and related API
okay.
work.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
but I imagine that would not be something that is in great demand within the UI here.
Yeah. The other thing I was thinking, and I think I mentioned earlier, being able to create a curated data set, but it that might be another option too, to kind of think about kind of down the road a little bit, is
Yes.
There may be things, data points that an individual person doing some kind of data analysis or data project would need to be able to see. And you mentioned the API, so that would be a good way to get to that as well.
Yep.
Or in specific projects where you need to see, say, I need to see everything from the Department of Computer and Information Scientists, see all the different people associated with it. And although you're not necessarily seeing it in a general search, just maybe even being able to get to that data. And
Yep.
I mean, the API would
I
certainly do it.
imagine all
So
that will be
yeah,
doable,
yeah.
but a bit out of
Mhm.
scope of this
Oh,
particular
yeah, yeah,
conversation,
yeah,
Yeah,
which,
yeah. Like I said, just brainstorming here. So
okay. So
yeah.
we've only got 5 minutes left.
And there are a couple of questions, it looks like, in the chat, Jill.
Oh, great. Dominique posted something that I don't know if Anne, if you can, or whose screen am I looking at right now? It's Anne's, right?
And you're muted.
I'm back. Yes, that's one thing I wanted to get at was Dominique's question around, yes. So for the current image property, you can give a link to like a JPEG. And one property that exists in the ontology that we're working on, having it work in the UI is, I think it's in here. No, maybe not. But we have a IIIF manifest property, and so we are looking to make that available as well to like include a link or the manifest for a given, image. So this is the way that you can do it right now. In I think the manifest, there might be somewhere that is more of the direct link to the literal image. But that is something that we're working on, so you can also just kind of like hang on to the manifest stuff.
So the reference for this one would be the Wikimedia page, but the JPEG upload is the value. Is that it? That's what I was
Oh, for the
wondering.
reference.
Yeah, so I put the Wikimedia Commons there, but then the upload, which links directly to the image for the value. Is that correct?
I mean, these actually
I know it's a
might
JPEG,
both
but that opens
work.
the whole page.
Oh, this opens the Okay, yes.
Mm-hmm.
No, you're right. You did it the right way. Or well,
Okay.
you did it the way that works best.
Okay, thank you.
So I think that's a good way to do it because this value is meant to deliver an image. So, and this one kind of does, and I'm guessing that there's like a way that you could get the direct image from this, but I don't know. I am
I
not a
was
person that
wondering
knows how to
because
do
this
that.
image is
Yeah.
also on Wikidata, so I thought, well, I could put the Wikidata page because the image is on Wikidata, on Wiki. I mean, it's on Wikipedia, on the Wikipedia page for this person, so I could put that also as the reference. But
Yeah, and so I like what you added here, and I think I want to take a look at what has been done so far. Just in terms of images, it's an area of active development for us. One of the things that we're working on is making sure that the experience is accessible um, for like displaying these, whether
Were you
so
adding required alt text
that's what we're
or
working on right now. Yeah.
automating creation of alt text?
Get that link to upload link.
So that's kind of what we're
Discussing.
figuring out right now. Yes. So as we do this kind of how do we want to provide that? Would we want to ship alt text around various things related to this? So um what so I'm glad that we'll be making sure that this is accessible and it adds a layer of other different considerations and technologies like you said. So yeah, but for now this is perfect. and later. The image property will continue to exist and the
Oh, I think I
IIIF
just
manifest will exist.
copied it from here
Okay,
when you
right
came.
there.
Yeah, that's it. And then it opened that. That's the.
Okay, so we'll meet again in 3 weeks.
Do we want to have a plan for, do we want to go through the properties? Do we want to freeform Q&A?
I think, oh, for during the next meeting, you mean?
Yeah, yeah.
I think if we want to send a follow-up when we have the recordings and everything, Misty, we can also add, here's the spreadsheet, please add comments. And then I think in the next meeting, we can start reviewing those comments and see where we end up. Does that sound to everybody?
Yeah,
Good.
sounds good. And we didn't get to Karen's comment or question about the organizational dates and name changes. I mean, we did a little bit, but we can either maybe answer that somewhere else or next time, if that's okay.
Yeah,
I'll throw
Karen,
it in
I
the,
feel like for right now, I'm not sure that, let me look at this name. I'm not sure that we have that property available. We have the concept of like the preceded and succeeded by, but as we were talking about it now, I think again, one of the benefits of is we can have one identifier for a given, entity and then have name changes. But this is something that I think would be best like discussed by the group and see like what meets folks' needs. Do we continue in the route of, I think LC kind of does that, where you create multiple for established things and create relationships between them? Or do we want to not make a rule, but guidelines around what constitutes a totally separate thing? So right now we don't have that. I don't know if you're still here, Karen, but if you watch it later, right now we don't have those dates. But this is getting added to my list of telling folks about the interest and need for date kind of qualifiers.
yeah. And this is the kind of thing that could go into that. And then the question of maybe you don't have dates, but you just know order.
Yeah, cool.
But yeah, we can talk about that next time. That's a great idea.
I'm so excited.
It's fantastic.
I love
Well,
metadata.
well, I hope everybody has a wonderful holiday, and we'll see you all in a few weeks.
Yes.
Thank you.
Everybody
Thanks so
have a
much,
nice holiday.
everyone.
Nice to see everybody. Bye.
Good to see you. Bye.